going to run MRTD test. There are two types of MRTD tests that are available. One is called MRTD subjective and one is called MRTD objective. In this session, we're going to emphasize the subjective MRTD test, which is the most common method of running the MRTD. MRTD subjective is the man in the loop. So we're going to select our MRTD subjective test. Double click on the test. It opens up the parameters list. Let's just make sure that's easy to read. And let's just review some of the parameters that we need to set to run the test. The first parameter is the graph type, or what kind of graph we're going to display at the output. We can either select the bar graph or what we call a 2D graph plot. Normally we use the bar graph, but it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. Another flag is called show or display the vision window. As you know, we have the imager connected via a frame grabber or capture card to the computer, and if we decide or select to display the vision window during the test run, we can select this option here. And if we select it, then we need to determine the proper frame grabber or capture card input that we're using. In this case, the camera is an analog camera, so we have the global parameter selected as the frame grabber analog. As a side point, MRTDs usually run on the customer's display or high definition display. This is just an extra feature that we provide so that if they don't have this display, then we run it through the monitor's screen and frame grabber. Next variable is if you want to display or hide the temperature variable when you're running the test. Usually it should be turned on, meaning the display of the temperature should be hidden from view from the user, but this is an option that is up to the customer. Okay, now we come to the output, MRTD output. MRTD output is the test result that was calculated, and we can put the pass-fail criteria. You can set the criteria by right-clicking on the variable and determining the range of the valid points or valid temperature at the selected frequency that we ran the test. Since this is a vector, we can of course change the size. If we want to add more targets or more points to measure, we just need to increase or decrease the size. But we have to make sure that any of the other vectors in the system, such as the target list, the targets that we're going to be using, or the start temperature at each MRTD test point has to be the same size. So we have the target list here. The output is 3, so we need to make sure that the target list is 3. And in the target list, we can select the targets that we want to use, different 4-bar targets. Now the 4-bar targets need to be ordered from the lowest frequency to the highest frequency. So in this case, it's 0.3, 0.5, and 1.2 cycles per milliradian. If it's not in order, the MRTD test will stop at a certain point and notify the user that there's some error in the measurement procedure. Again, also with the temperature or the temperature start point at each target frequency, you need to select the beginning differential temperature to run the MRTD. Now remember, the MRTD, we'll review this, the MRTD is measured at 2 points, one at a positive temperature and one at a negative temperature. Both test points we are changing temperature such that we want to see that the 4-bar target is just disappearing, or we can just discern between the 4-bar targets and 3 targets. That means there's 3 bars. That means we want to be able to. This is not a non-deterministic way. The MRTD test is run at each frequency, both in the positive and the negative temperature. And at each set point, we ramp the black body down towards 0 until we can't distinguish the 4-bar targets that are displayed at that temperature. So this is just a point of recognition of the target, and that's what we want to. That's what MRTD means. It's the minimum resolvable temperature difference. So we want to find that point in a positive and a negative, and then we take the average of those two, and that is the MRTD value at that point. Okay. Finally, we have to make sure that we have, if there is a source stage, we have to make sure that we're using the correct source. In this case, of course, it's the black body. Again, if this is set up at CI, it'll be a read-only variable, and just for your verification, you'll see that it's a black body. And then, of course, you have some strings that if you want to change some message to the operator during the test, you're more than welcome to do that. Once you're finished setting up the MRTD, click on the Save button, close, and we're finished setting up the test. Okay, now we're going to run the MRTD test after we set it up. We select the MRTD test, click on the Start Execution button, and we hear the source stage moving in position. And already the first target, which is 0.3 cycles per milliradian, is displayed. So the first thing we need to do before we run the test is set the polarity to white hot. That's what we normally run the system. That's how we calculate. And it's good to be consistent. On the side of the target list here, you can select which targets you want to run in the test. Sometimes when you run the MRTD and you fail at a specific target point, you may correct that failure. Maybe some issue with the camera or the imager, and you need to correct it. So you correct that by fixing or doing some sort of operation or action on it. And then you want to repeat the MRTD test. You want to make sure that at that point the test won't fail. So you just unselect the targets that passed, and you rerun it just for the target that didn't pass, and that will be sufficient to update the MRTD test. Let's say in this case we're going to run all 3 targets, and we're going to display a bar graph at the end. So click on the Start button, and what it says here is change the target temperature by using the plus minus up down temperature points. Now you see the current step value is 0.001. If we have a DT factor, if we select 10 or times 100, we see that the step size increases or decreases. So in the beginning, I would probably, it depends. You know, I know that I'm not near the boundary. We want to find just the transition point where we can't resolve the 4-bar targets. So we need to go down at least 1 or 2 clicks of 0.1. Let's go down 1, 2, maybe even 3 clicks here. Now we need to wait for the black body to stabilize. We can still see 4 bars, more or less. barely. So we still haven't stabilized. So we have to wait for the black body. Black body takes a while to stabilize in the temperature, definitely in the thousandths of a degree. So the black body usually gives off a beep, meaning that we're in a window within 1/10 of a degree, and then, or 1/100th of a degree, and then another 10 or 15 seconds until we're stabilized in a couple thousandths of a degree. Now, as long as you can easily view the 4-bar target, then you know you're not in range. So you don't need to wait until it stabilizes to fully stabilization. But here we see that we're getting close already. So I'm going to change the step size instead of 1/10 to 1/100th, and I'm going to go down a few clicks towards the 0. 1, 2, 3. And again, we have to wait. Now we're getting close to the transition point. I would wait. Okay, so it's stabilized. I can still barely see the 4-bar targets, so I'm going to go down to even a higher resolution, thousandths of a degree. So let's go down 2, 3 clicks. Okay, I forgot to mention, if you're working off the computer, you should be running at about 100% magnification. So I mean 1:1. So you're supposed to be running at the ideal conditions that your system is set up. Again, I can barely see the 4-bar targets. Let's go down another few clicks. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're at the transition point. I can't get it much better than that. So let's just wait for it to stabilize. Okay, we've determined that this is the transition point. Okay, so we click on the next button. So now what will happen is that going to reverse the polarity, and we have to go from negative, or white hot is still white hot, but we're in a negative temperature. 4 bars will be black, and we have to go towards the 0 to make the measurement and find the transition point where it's just discernible. As you see now, we've switched, going to negative 0.4 because that was the start temperature. Okay, so now we've reached the negative temperature. We need to go towards, we're at minus 0.44 degrees. We need to go up towards 0. So again, let's do 1 or 2 clicks. Let's do 2 clicks. Okay, so I can barely see him. we have to wait until it stabilizes. And we're very close. Okay, the black body has said that it's within the window. Wait another couple of seconds. I think I'm already hit the sweet spot. I'm going to go down maybe 1 or 2, or up another 1 or 2 clicks, 1/1000th of a degree, just to show that we can go up. And that's it for this frequency set point. Okay, so we've determined that this is the negative threshold point at this frequency. We click on the next button, and what we'll see the other measurement, and it'll calculate the MRTD value at this point. So what happened here is that we're going to the next target, and we've displayed on the bar graph the measured value, which is greater than spec, so we failed. Right? The blue is the measured value, the red is the spec, or the maximum value allowed, and it seems that we didn't set the criteria, or the camera didn't meet the criteria at that point. Now we're going to the second target, and it's being set to a negative 0.5. Now the reason why we're staying negative, because we started positive, and since it's toggling between positive and negative, eventually the second point of the first step was some temperature in the negative value. I want to stay in a negative range because it's easier to do it without having to wait so long. It'll save some time. See, the MRTD test takes a long time to run. So now we're at minus 0.5. Okay, let's change the step size to 1 or 2 clicks. Go up. Okay, we can still see the 4-bar targets. Let's go up 1 more click. Okay, I think I passed the threshold. So what I should really do is go back, make sure that we see it, and then again go back up. You should always go one unidirection from cold to 0, and when we're in the negative temperature. So let's go back to 0.3, so that we're within threshold. I mean, beyond the threshold, actually. And then let's start again. We know we went too much when I went up 1/10 of a degree. Let's change it a couple to hundredths of a degree. Okay, so we wait for it to stabilize. So let's click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. know it's very difficult to see, but I can still see it on the screen here. If I look at it directly, I don't know, maybe if you want to zoom in on the camera, or maybe you can zoom in here. For the testing purposes, let's just zoom in so that I can show you. Okay, so we're very close to the threshold. Let's change it to 1/1000th of a degree and assume that we're pretty close. Let's go up also 4 or 5 clicks. Okay, I think that's pretty close. Just let it stabilize. That's what we're supposed to do. Give it a few more seconds, and I guess we're just at that threshold. Click next. Now we're going, I only did half of this MRTD test, or this target. Now we have to go to the positive. So here's the measurement we had. It was minus 0.246. So now the camera or the display is showing the temperature at 0.5 degree, and it's fairly easy to read or see. I'm going to change the step size. 0.1, let's go down like 1, 2, 3 clicks at least. We need to wait. Okay, so we've stabilized. You can still see the target. So let's go down one more click towards the 0. And so that we can still see it. We haven't gone too far. I think I've gone too far. So I'm going to go back. Sorry. I already see that I've gone too far. So let's go back up. Okay, let's change step size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.5 degree. Okay, we're getting very close to the threshold here. Let's go to high resolution. A few clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, so you could spend a lot of time going through these thousandths of degree. I'm very close, and it depends on the kind of tolerance you need. We're very close. We can still barely see 4 targets. I guess I can do another click, a couple of clicks. Let's wait for it to stabilize. Okay, I think we're there. All right, so let's wait for the black body to stabilize. Give it a few more seconds to make sure. We can barely discern the 4-bar targets. This is close enough to the threshold point, at least for me. Click on the next button, and okay, so we passed in this one. All right. Now we're going to the final target at 1.2 cycles per milliradian, and of course, the higher the frequency, the harder it is for the camera to be able to resolve. So you see there's a connection between temperature, MRTD value, and MTF. And that'll bring us to the objective MRTD at a future session. Okay, so we've reached 0.7. Again, we need to go down. We can assume, since it's MRTD, the threshold is going to be somewhat greater than 0.19 degrees, but we don't know what it is. So let's click down a couple of clicks, set it to 0.1, 1, 2, 3. Let's see if it's getting really hard. Yeah. Oh, it's pretty hard already. I can't really see it. I may have gone already too far. I can barely see it. Let's say I can see it. Let's wait for it to stabilize. So we're very close to the threshold here. I won't even bother times 10. I'll go directly to thousands. Just 1 or 2 clicks and call it. I did another couple of clicks. Okay, so we've reached this point. I'd say that we're very close. Maybe we could make it just slightly better. Practice person could do it better than me. Click on the next target. Before I continue, I just want to mention that there's another button here called non-resolvable. Sometimes you have a list of 4-bar targets, and even at a certain point, no matter how much temperature you infuse into the black body, the imager won't be able to see it. No matter how much temperature you infuse into the black body, or you set the black body temperature, you won't be able to see the target, no matter what. So what we say, we can't continue the test because it's futile. And you may have a list of 4-bar targets, so you just click on non-resolvable and the test will end with the first n targets that you measured, and the last ones will be empty. Okay, but let's click on the next button here, and we're going to the negative temperature. try say, okay, we're almost there, negative 0.7. Now sometimes originally when you start with MRTD and you're starting setting up the parameters, you may be totally off with the start temperatures. The start temperature has to be greater, absolutely, from the expected threshold, at least one or two times greater, so that you can see it and have some leeway to set the temperature, change the temperature. So sometimes the first time you run it and it's not enough, you'll have to go back, exit the test and run it again. Okay, so we're at 0.7. Let's click, maybe 2 clicks going up towards 0. So we'll be going to 0.5, minus 0.5. Let's see, are we close to the threshold? Oh, we're close. Yeah, we're close. I can barely see it. So the threshold is defined more or less the point where you can barely see, where it goes from 4 to 3 targets, 3 bar targets, something like that. That's more or less the threshold of the MRTD. And we're very close here, so let's go to 1,000 and just do a couple of clicks. I can barely see, we're losing contrast here, we can barely see anything. I'd say that this would be a good threshold point. Just make sure that the black body is stabilized. Wait a couple seconds. This is close enough. Click on the next button. And there, we have it. We've run the test. We have 3 points. The first point we failed. The other 2 we passed. Click on the accept button. Do some post-processing, such as setting the temperature back to some known temperature. Wait for this to stabilize. And we're done with running the test. Okay, after we've run the MRTD, all what's left is to either see the test summary or run a report. So the test summary, we double click on the line of the MRTD. We see the measurement values that we did, three targets, 3 4-bar frequencies. The first one we failed, and the other 2 passed. Criteria, pass, fail criteria. If we go to the attachments tab, we can see the 4-bar chart. We can have it displayed in the report or not if we want. We can look at the configuration parameters, so each test stores the current configuration that we had at the time of the test run. We have the test summary, status was failed, and under what conditions or under what which part number and serial number we ran it, etc., etc. We can close this, and this is stored in a database. From here, we can generate the report. We need to select the Quick Basket, click on Create Report, use Quick Basket, Create Report, and here we have the list, MRTD frequency list that we ran, values, the criteria, pass, fail status, and the 4-bar chart. Of course, we can print this if you have a printer, or we convert this to a PDF file for further use in your report filing system.